Hi, this week I'm going to be doing some repairs and upgrades on my Kurt Vise. And before we get started, I just want to apologize because it's been a really busy month and every flat surface is covered with a project. So I decided that I'd try and complete this project on my hydraulic lift cart. And it's on wheels, and the wheels don't lock very well. So not really the best choice. So it moves around a lot, and I apologize in advance for that. Hopefully you'll find some information this useful and it isn't too annoying. So I just want to apologize up front and thank you for watching. Hope you find something useful. Alright, so this week I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to make some repairs to my Kurt Vise. When I bought this vise, it came on the rotary base, and as you can see from the rust, it looks like it was accumulating some coolant over the years, and it's got some really thick rust on the part that doesn't make contact, but nonetheless, I wasn't overly happy. I never really used the rotating base at all, so you know, the part that locks it down is also, that holds the vise into this, is also the part that locks the rotation. So you know, if you wanted any kind of accuracy, this really wouldn't be the way to go. Thing that inspired this also was the fact that I got a little bit of lift on the front, on the movable jaw. And there is an Allen screw adjust in the middle over here that you can tighten that prevents that, but I would set it so that it wouldn't lift, and then you know, bring the vise in and out a few times, and then it would start to lift again. And it seems there's a little hemispherical piece in here that pushes on the 45 angle to keep it down, and I'm hoping that when I open it up, that part will be dented, because Kurt sells very reasonably a repair kit I found online for these vises. It was like 25 bucks, 25 to $30, and it includes that little hemispherical piece right there. So I'm hoping that when I replace those, it'll be good. The bed is still in really good shape. One of the things they recommend when you rebuild this is you take it off to a surface grinder and you grind the whole base flat again. I don't have a surface grinder or access to one, so that's not really going to happen for me, but the vise is pretty smooth other than that. So I'm going to replace the other parts, and I'll be back in a minute when I get this camera in a fixed base so that I can do the work while you watch. Oh, one more thing. When I took it off that rotating base, there was corrosion on the bottom of the vise. So the first thing I did was I flipped it over and I stoned it with some oil and took all the burrs and high spots off. The rust was very, very mild, fortunately, but there were some burrs, so I took care of all that, so when I put it back on the mill, it won't be a problem. All right, I'll be back in a sec. So the first step you do in repairing this is you flip it over, you take these two bolts out, and you remove the fixed jaw. So I'm going to do that. They were tightened at the factory with 150 foot-pounds of torque, and the reason I know that is because I looked at the whole process, and one of the parts is putting this back up, so this will probably be pretty tight. This is oriented in an unfortunate way for a left-handed person. Wow, gonna need some way to hook this to hold this down while I do this. So I tried my impact wrench, but it's a pretty old one, and it did not get to a high enough force to loosen this. Ultimately, it was the breaker bar with the torque extending pipe on it, and boy, the bar was bending to get these before they cracked. These bolts were tight. They're supposed to be 150 foot-pounds. They might have even been more. All right, let's move on. So in case you're wondering, these are the bolts that hold it in with a really sharp lock washer on each one. Pretty impressive. These are definitely bigger than a ½ inch, probably 5/8. Pretty impressive. So let's get that fixed jaw off and move to the next step. In case you're wondering what it looked like, here is the bottom of the fixed jaw with its keyways. So when you put this back in, they're going to ask to put a 1/8 inch parallel and use the vise jaw to push really hard, and then flip it over and tighten. And you do it in stages, so you do like 25 foot-pounds, then 50, 75, and 150 or something like that. And then when we get there, I'll be more specific. So the next step was to loosen this adjusting screw until you can remove the moving head. I mean the moving vice jaw, which is right here. It needs cleaning, definitely. Oh, a lot of swarf stuck in here. That's kind of ugly. Look at all this stuff. Anyways. Alright, I'll bring you back in a sec. So the next job was just to run the vice jaw back until this part completely unthreaded, which is the moving jaw base. So hopefully you can see it. So the next part, there was this locking ring that this is the rotating shaft stuck through. It had a washer and a locking pin, so I took this off. It still was really tight, so I had to use a hammer and tightly tap it out. So now we're clear, and we'll move on to the next step. So out of the end of the sliding part is a wiper, completely shot. The ball piece, besides having swarf all over it, is got a bunch of rough spots on it and it looks like some corrosion. You can tell the difference between that one and the new one. So there's the new one, there's the one that came out, very rough with some scarring in it. Other things that are noticeable, they gave you a new set of bearings, obviously the new wiper, which I'll put in. They gave a new O-ring which goes on the shaft, and I'm just going to put it back together. I'm going to clean it. I'm going to stone the ways here. There are a couple little divots in it, so I'm going to stone them. You can see there's some wear at the end here. So this vise is well used. Then I'm going to put a lot of lubricant back in it and reassemble it, and I'll bring you back. So when you're putting this guy back in, again, so you got to get it lined up straight and square, so lift up and get it square, and then light taps to get it in because it's a really snug fit. And there might be some little burrs in there, I'm not really sure. I felt, and it felt smooth with my finger, but I might have missed one. Anyways, so it required some light tapping to get it in. The slip rings, just a screwdriver. It's like a Jesus clip with C-clip, except it's 3 parts. So you just sort of get one side started and sort of just thread it around. Alright, so now I'm just going to reverse the operation, get this guy back on. I'm going to stone the smooth parts here just to get rid of any burrs. That's not critically ground or anything, and I'll be right back. Alright, so the last step in this process involves putting, well, first let me get this jaw just seated here and the screws just started. So you're supposed to get this guy seated and have these screws lightly started. So before I do anything, I guess it says to tighten the bolts to 5 foot-pounds before I use the parallel. So what you're about to see here in a second is me actually struggle to loosen these bolts first, because I need to get them to 5 foot-pounds. And the reason why I'm loosening is because I tried to tighten with a Harbor Freight torque wrench that was really inexpensive and worked about as well. So I'm loosening them so that I can actually set them to the 5 foot-pounds recommended. Okay, so first step was tighten the nuts to 5 foot-pounds. Next step, put an 1/8 inch parallel in. Tighten to 50 foot-pounds. 50. So I need the socket. For this guy. Okay, so tighten that to 50 foot-pounds, pressing at the bottom with the parallel. Then flip it over, tighten the bolts to 50 foot-pounds. Okay, go back, tighten the jaws to 100 foot-pounds. Alright, now tighten the bolts to 100 foot-pounds. So we're going to have to lean this up. No, wrong way. Nicely done. Okay, 100 foot-pounds. I think you need like an air race to do this. Okay, 100 foot-pounds, and now last but not least, 150 foot-pounds. Which is going to be very challenging. This was the problem getting it off. I think ultimately you need an air wrench that's heavier duty than the one I had, but okay. I did add some molybdenum disulfide grease to the threads of these, so hopefully next time I will actually be able to get them undone. That was doable. All right. Okay. There we go. Should be set now. I also bought some replacement jaws for this, which there's nothing wrong with these, but they had some on sale that had vice stops built in, so I think I'll swap these out as well. So I'll be right back. So the old jaws are such a tight fit, they're actually wrung together and stick. Pretty amazing. Kurt does a really nice job. They're ground and really nice. So both sides of these will support their vice stops. So here's the whole vise back together. Here's their vice stops. They work on either side, although I usually use vice stops only on the fixed jaw, but I didn't realize that they didn't come in pairs, so I ended up buying two of these. So here it is. Everything's very smooth, and I'm just going to put it back on the mill, tram it in, and we'll be good to go. So that concludes it. Generally a pretty easy operation. The hardest part is torquing the bolts that hold the fixed jaw down while you're loading it. I recommend, I don't know if it'd be good for it or not. It may not be. Everything's hardened, but it almost seems like an impact wrench would be the way to go. Either that or you're going to have to fix this to something, because it was really tough to do while I was floating because it wanted to move because they were pushing so hard. So anyways, that's it, and hope it was useful, and hope to see you next time.